Hello everyone, I'm Kim and welcome to my sewing room. I hope you're all really well and are having a lovely day. Today I'm going to do a sew along. So I'm going to make a shirt, the B6747, and it's a very basic shirt pattern. So last week I actually prepared the pattern, so I traced off a more appropriate size for my ever-changing body, and I also made a tummy adjustment on the pattern. So this year I've set myself 2 challenges: to make better fitting clothes and to also make a dent in my fabric stash. So if you haven't seen last week's video, you can watch that and see how I've changed that pattern to fit me now, and that's the pattern I'm going to use today. So the fabric I've chosen is this. So this is 100% cotton and it's got a taupe background with these orange and yellow flowers on. So I have also looked at the notions recommended. So it said to pick 10 buttons for this shirt. So I've got 10 buttons that match the colour of those flowers, and I've also decided that I'm going to sew in an orange thread because it will make it easier for you to see where I'm sewing, and hopefully make it a more enjoyable experience for you, and also it will make the shirt pop. So as well as the fabric, I've also selected the interfacing. So this is the interfacing I'm going to use, and I use this a lot in my shirts. It's called G710 and it's an adhesible interfacing, and I generally use this on the collar and the cuffs, and sometimes I might double it up and use that in the collar stand just to give a little bit more stiffness in the collar stand. So that is my interfacing. The other thing I also like to do when I'm sewing is use this stuff. This is double-sided washaway tape. Now if you're a quilter, you will be very familiar with this, but I actually have used this for years. I've used it in my garment making, and it's basically a different form of basting. So you will see me use this throughout the process of making this shirt. And the other thing which is really important is to have a hot iron. I know we have irons in our sewing room, but for me, I press like mad when I make a shirt, and I use the pressed lines to also help me in pulling this shirt together. Now when I make anything up, I will read through the instructions and I will decide the order in which I want to make a garment up. I don't always necessarily follow the order in the pattern instructions, so you will see me jump around a little bit because it just suits my sewing style, and I have been doing this long enough to know when I can do that. Start cutting the fabric out. I won't show you that process because you know what that involves. And I'm also going to interface the appropriate pieces. The one thing I will mention is this little piece here. So this is the placket. So this is for the opening of the sleeve. So when I cut this out, I usually make it 1 inch to 1.5 inches longer than the actual pattern piece, and you'll see why I do that when we come to sewing it into the sleeve. Right, so all the fabric has now been cut out and I've interfaced all of the pieces that the pattern has recommended. But before I start stitching, I thought what I would do is I'd just go through the pattern pieces and show you which markings I've actually transferred and those that I haven't, and why. So on the front piece, all I've transferred on this piece is the little armhole notch here, so that will help me put the sleeve in, and I've also tailor tacked here, so that also will help with the sleeve. On the front it has a fold over placket, so I have just snipped into the top here and into the top there where those 2 folds are, on the top and also on the bottom. So on the fabric you can see that I have my where is it? Yes, I have my snips there in the front where I'm going to do the fold over for the front band, and they're also at the bottom, so that will help me fold over the placket and get that lined up nicely. So the only markings that I've transferred onto my fabric for the back are the two little notches here for the sleeve and also the tailor's tack. You can see there's a notch up here, haven't bothered with that. This is the sleeve, and with the sleeve I put in the 3 tailor's tacks at the top. You can see that they're still in place, and I've also you know, clipped the relevant notches on the sleeve. So the single one on the front for the front, and the double notch that goes for the back. And at the bottom of the sleeve you have all of these markings here. So basically all I've done is I put a notch, I've cut the notch there, I've done another cut there, there and there. So effectively I've got 5 little cuts in the bottom of my sleeve. And I'm also going to tailor's chalk the actual markings in rather than put tailored tacks in. So I'll show you how I do that in a moment. It's also got notches here on the sides of the sleeve. I'm not going to bother with those. So here's the bottom of the sleeves. I'm just going to transfer the markings. So it's basically these two here really more than this one. So make sure that you've got the pattern facing up and the fabric facing up for the first one. And I've got one of these chalk pens that have got the little wheel on the bottom. And I'm just basically going to go over the top of the pattern. It will leave an indentation underneath. All I'm going to do is then go over that with the chalk. Okay, and then move it back into place for this one. Now because I've got the 2 little clip marks in the bottom, I'll use those, but I just need to put a pin there. And effectively, you can see it's there, so I'm just going to put a mark there. That. I'm just going to use the first notch and go up to the pin. Second notch is there. I'm just going to use that as a guide, and then so when you do the second sleeve you need to make sure that if you have the sleeve facing up, you need to turn the pattern the other way around, because obviously the sleeves are a mirror image. So you just use the marking so you can see if you've done it right, because the clip marks will be there. So I'm just going to go over that just so it leaves a dent in the fabric to give me a guide. Now I prefer to use chalk rather than an erasable pen, because sometimes the pen can leave a sort of a white ghosty mark in the fabric. So there's the markings for your sleeve. So the sleeve is done. So I've got my collar with this. I have not put any tailor's tacks where there is little tailor tack marks, so I haven't bothered with those at all. All I've done is I've used the notch marks. So I've put a double notch, done that one, and a double notch on the other side, and I've also clipped to signify the centre of the collar. And the collar stand, there's lots of tailor tack marks here. I haven't used any of those at all, don't need those. And yet again you can see there's some double notches, so I've double clipped there, single clip for the centre, and double clipped also at the top there. So they've all been clipped where the clip marks are, and there's also one at the bottom on each side of the collar stand. So I've only really used the clips, I haven't tailor tacked. Sometimes I think the tailor tacking is a little bit overkill. And on the cuff The cuff's got like 4 tailor tack marks in each corner. I haven't bothered with any of those because really all they do is signify where the seam allowance is. And if you do your 5/8, which this pattern is 5/8 seam allowance, that is just, you know, it just goes without saying. So I haven't bothered with the tailor tacks on each of the corners. The only thing I've done with the cuff is put the little notch mark there, so I've just clipped into the fabric very slightly. So we're now at the stage where we can start stitching the shirt, and the one last step that I do before I actually start to stitch is just to make sure that I have a fresh needle in my machine. And on this fabric, because it is such fine cotton, I've decided to use a 60 sharp needle. I've also got my walking foot, so I'm going to use this little beauty. Always use my walking foot wherever I can. And I also use a straight stitch plate, so it has a really tiny little hole and it really does give you really nice straight stitches. I've also checked my tension on the fabric and I'm happy with that, so now we're ready to go. Right, we're nearly ready to sew. I've had real problems uploading the video. It was really long, so I think it just struggled to upload. So I've therefore decided to make it into a mini series. So this video is all about paper preparation, fabric selection, getting my notions together and also preparing my machine. Now I would like to say that even though I'm using a walking foot and a straight stitch plate, they are definitely not necessary, so use whatever you normally use. Tomorrow's video is going to be all about bringing the front and back together and sewing the plackets, the front plackets and the hem. So hopefully you've enjoyed the content so far, and if you aren't a subscriber, it'd be lovely if you could. And if you are a subscriber, I will see you all tomorrow. So take care. Bye.